All right, here I am. I made it. Jalen did go to sleep literally a few minutes ago, so I am here. We can get started. We can get started. There we go. Hello. Today is Monday. It is Alignment and Manifestation class day. So thank you so much for coming. Y'all know what we do. This is all about alignment and manifestation. So this is class. I think this is class 5 for us. First class was introduction about alignment and what it was. Second class was chakras, what it was. Third class we talked about hold on, I was like maybe fourth class we talked about it's in your mind. And what was the third class? I have it in my notes, but yeah, so I think this is the 5th class, alignment and manifestation. And so this class is about taking responsibility and forgiveness. So the first part about this class, hey y'all, thank you so much. Look, and I spelled forgiveness wrong. So let me spell forgiveness correctly. I will have worksheets for tonight's class for those of you who are signed up to that are part of the working class and actually get the worksheets. Again, y'all know I was in New York last week, so I just decided I opted out of doing a class. I was going to try to do a makeup class, but that just didn't work out. Taking responsibility and forgiveness. Y'all, I can spell although you can't really tell on here, and forgiveness. Okay, so you know what, y'all, you know what, I can spell forgiveness. I don't know why this is doing this to me, but I'm gonna try one more time. Third time should be a charm. Manifestation, taking responsibility. Hey y'all, responsibility and forgiveness. We spelled it right this time. Forgiveness. Cool, there we go. It's on here. So there we go. Pin comment. So take out my notes. All right, there we go. I'm here. Thank you guys for joining me for our 5th class for the alignment and manifestation. Who I am and why I'm doing this. So I am the manifesting beauty, formerly the working beauty, and I changed my name to the manifesting beauty because ultimately I realized that the work that I initially pride myself on, this hustle and grind mentality, had really shifted into more of a kind of law of attraction approach, where it's that I don't force things, I just align myself to what is already for me. And so that has brought me a lot of peace and abundance of happiness and joy. And so I wanted to share what I've learned on this journey with all of you, because I think ultimately I want women to feel beautiful, but if I can influence or teach or lead people to feeling more peace and happiness, because I just feel so good, I want more people to experience that. If I could just live that life, then I really want to encourage others and teach others how to go about doing so, because really I learned this lifestyle that I'm living now. And while I'm not at a place of perfection, and we never get to a place of perfection, I am in a place of total peace. For the most part, you know, there are my moments, but even in those moments, I know how to get back to a place of peace, and that's something that I want to help others with and instill others. So I've been an entrepreneur for 4 years as of September 15th. But in the last 2 years, I've really discovered this idea of just alignment and congruency and what it means to be in that space. And so here I am teaching you guys how to also get there, right? To how to live in full alignment, because in the place of full alignment, there is peace, there is happiness, there is joy, there is contentment, there is power, right? And so I want to help you all get there. So this is our 5th class. I'm pretty sure it's the 5th class. I might even count this as the 4th class because I wasn't able to save the 4th class, and I'm gonna have to do a redo of that class because obviously I was unable to save it because of my phone storage. So I'm gonna do that class again, but I wanted to start fresh today. So the last class I did was about It's All in the Mind, and I'm going to have to run that class back. But today, we're going to be talking about taking responsibility and forgiveness. So the major part of, and the key to this, the reason, and I want to say this again, and I've said this before, a lot of people can manifest, and not everybody. And I want to say a lot of people are talking about manifestation because it's such a buzzword, right? Everyone's like, I'm a manifester and I manifested this, and it's cool. It's a buzzword. But really, if you're not in alignment, then you can manifest and still be unhappy, right? There's people who manifest money all day long, right? There are people who are very rich and yet they kill themselves, and I strongly believe that it's because they're not in alignment. And so for me, there are some things that I want to teach about getting in alignment before we even teach full-on manifestation, right? And the first part about alignment, we've gone about what it is and what it brings, and we've talked about it. But really, I want to say for you to manifest and to manifest the things that you're supposed to manifest and things that are in alignment with you, you have to absolutely take responsibility for everything. And this is a concept that was hard. It's hard to put into practice, but once you understand and once you start to put it in practice, you will see almost immediate results in a shift in how you conduct your day-to-day life. This was something I had to struggle with, and something that can be uncomfortable to talk about, but it's necessary. We have to take responsibility for everything, and it's hard to think that the things that make you unhappy are really a result of you, but they are. And that's the hardest part to really grasp onto. Everything that you don't have peace about in your life, everything that makes you unhappy, anything that makes you feel angry, anything that gets you to feeling negative, speaking negative, etc., sad, is really a result of you. And it is your responsibility to fix it. For instance, the best example I have is that on New York Fashion Week, one day my sister had called, my mother called me while I'm in the store thrifting, and I had a day planned to go to shows and stuff, and she's like, make sure that your sister gets out because I don't want her pinned up in the Airbnb the whole time taking care of Jalen, because I don't want her to enter a depression, right? And so I'm like, okay, Mom, like my sister is fine. We talk regularly. I think she's hanging out. She's enjoying herself, etc., etc. But my mom was really pressing upon this. Now, because my mom had pressed it, I said, okay, when I get home, I'll talk to my sister. When I got back, my sister was like, well, there is somewhere I want to go tonight. And I was like, well, what time are you trying to go? And she's like, well, I would need to leave at 5:30. Whole day kind of blown, because that's the middle of the day, and for her to get in the city, that's going to take hours, right? So initially so it means that I'm not going to be able to go to the show that I want to, because I'm not going to be able to take Jalen. So initially I'm mad at my mother. I'm like, why did my mom have to call and even say that, right? Like, we had a plan. Then I'm mad at my sister because I'm like, I paid for our tickets. You knew that you were supposed to take care of Jalen for me to go to this show. Like, I'm blaming everybody. I'm like, if Jalen's father was more involved, all of these thoughts go through my mind, and I'm blaming everybody. And then I had to stop and take a moment And it was much later in the day. This is probably 4 or 5 hours into the day when I realized that my day is not going well. That I realized that, one, I didn't have my devotional, right? And so I realized that because I didn't have my devotional, I'm feeling all these negative feelings that I had not felt in a long time because I didn't take the time out to say my affirmations, to do my visualizations, to journal, to go into my whole process to make sure that my day runs smoothly. So ultimately, the reason that my day is going poorly is not because everybody around me, but because I was not intentional about starting my day. So my thing is, you have to take responsibility for everything. And if you find that you're having a bad day or that you're having a negative thought or etc., it's up to you to refocus, recenter, and move with more intention in your life. If you are unhappy in any area of your life, it really is a result of you. Now, please understand that I'm not talking about traumas that you experienced as a child, right? Because as a child, we are under the guardianship of whoever is our guardian, right? Whether it be our parents, our grandparents, foster parents, whatever. So those actions, that behavior, whatever that they did, that's not what I'm talking about. But I am talking about once you become an adult. How you deal with your childhood experiences is on you. Like, that is totally up to you. Like, whether you decide to go to counseling, whether you decide to let that to cripple you into not being able to act, all of that becomes you, right? Because at some point, we all have to recognize that we have some kind of childhood trauma. And some of us have more childhood trauma than others, right? So I don't want to be insensitive. But yes, at some point, you have to be responsible for you and take ownership for the things that you've experienced, right? So once you decide that I have the power to dictate how my life is run on a day-to-day and ultimately overall, then you are empowered to change and correct behaviors and patterns and unhealthy behaviors that you've been settled in for so long, right? So ultimately, you have to be responsible. This is a part of alignment because you cannot align if you are blaming everybody else. Like, alignment is such a personal thing. It cannot be the responsibility of everybody else. If you are not feeling peace in a certain part of your life, you have to be responsible for changing that, right? You're not responsible for your childhood traumas, but you are responsible for your adult behavior. And because our adult behavior can be underlined by childhood trauma, I get that sometimes we want to blame, well, my mom didn't teach me how to deal with finances, right? That was a take I used to have. But then I had to realize I'm a grown adult who can read, and I'm intelligent enough to figure out how to fix my finances and how to deal with my finances on my own. That is not my mother's responsibility. So if I want to be in true alignment, then I have to figure out how to deal with money and my relationship with money for myself, right? So we make excuses and we blame people. I'm not happy because my husband is doing this. It's not your husband's responsibility to make you happy. You have to find how to make yourself happy outside of that. And I mean, when I talk about taking responsibility, you have to take responsibility for everything. I hate my job, and my boss is a bitch, and that's why I can't be productive on my job. Again, you're not responsible for your boss, but you are responsible for you. So you have to figure out a way to deal with that boss in a way that's going to be productive so that you can actually produce at your job, because you have an obligation to be productive at your job, right? So you have to take the responsibility. One of the books that really helped me early on in my life, and I'm going to recommend this, is Bad Childhood, Good Life. So this book really helped me open my eyes to the fact that even when and this is something that really was like mind-blowing for me, right? Is that even when you're trying to do the very opposite of what you learned as a child, because you know that behavior is not right. Sometimes that's still being controlled by your childhood trauma, right? Because control can still be acting in the opposite, when the reason you're acting in the opposite is because you were so turned off by what your family did or who your family was that you are willing to be completely opposite, even if it's detrimental to yourself. Right? So when you understand, and again, that book is called Bad Childhood, Good Life. But when you start to understand that you have the power and the control to you have the power to control your narrative. That's what I'm trying to say. When you start to take responsibility for everything that happens in your life, then you understand that you have the power to control your narrative. And then that means that you are powerful beyond measure, right? Because if I have the power to control my narrative, whether it's my finances, whether it's my relationships, whether it's my productivity and my career life, whatever it is, if I have the power, then it's no one else's responsibility. It is only mine, right? And if it is only my responsibility, then I can create the reality that I want to see. And that's why alignment is so important. But see, this is something you have to get yourself to understand before you can be a master manifester, right? Is that you have to take control. You have to take control and realize that you are the sole person responsible for all of your actions. So, to help you with this, there are a couple of things that I think you should do, or journal, or write, or however you want to do this, right? I think it's probably best to journal. That's what I'm going to suggest to the people that are in the working class, right? And then, again, we'll be more specific in our worksheets and in our conversations outside of this. But one of the things you need to do is, what are your triggers? Like, write down things like, what areas are you unhappy? Because you might not know that they're your triggers, but what areas are you unhappy with? And not just happy, but what triggers the anger and you being upset inside of you. So every time, and I say encourage you to do this for the next 7 days, it's every time you feel unhappy, you feel angry, you feel not at peace, you feel these negative emotions, write them down. Whether it just be a note in your phone, whether you keep a notebook, but you make a note of them, right? So, for instance, for me, it would be, I did make money later on today, but earlier today, I was a little bit like, I haven't made any money today, and I have some bills coming up that I need to pay. And I'm getting better about trying to keep hold of money, but I also have a tendency to spend money when I get it and not keep a certain amount of money to the side. That is something that I'm working on. But what areas are you unhappy? I'm unhappy in my finances sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes I experience that. How can I then take responsibility for my finances? I'm unhappy. For instance, I'm unhappy as a single mother. I don't like it. I hate being a single mother. So what can I do to make sure that I am content in my singleness while still trying to be open to a relationship? And one of the things I did was open my heart chakra so that I can be open to receiving and giving love. Am I making sense? I hope I'm making sense, right? Because this is not like the most exciting part of alignment and manifestation. I feel like some of the other topics might have been more exciting, but this is a true this is something that you absolutely have to step into for you to truly align, right? Is that you have to take responsibility, because for you to align, you have to know that you need to align, and for you to align, you have to do the work to make sure that you are okay. Cool, we're saying making sense. You have to do the work. So you can't look at somebody else, right? Even, in a relationship, right? It's been times where it's like, well, he's not pulling his weight. Well, what are you doing to ensure that you are completely happy and completely content, right? That you don't need him to pull his weight. That you are making sure that you are entering into a daily practice of being content, right? Regardless of what he or she is doing in your relationship. The same thing goes for a boss. What are you doing to make sure that you are happy, right? What are you doing? Could you get there a little earlier so that you can leave late? You know, if your boss gets there at 9, can you get there at 7, so for 2 hours you don't have to deal with them, and that for 2 hours you get to leave early? Like, can you work 7 to 3? You know, and so that you don't have to, if your boss works 9 to 5, can you work 7 to 3? Because that would be 4 hours that you don't have to deal with that boss, you know. Can you sign up for exercising classes, because that might make you feel more happy? Can you eat differently? Can you sign up for classes? You know, are you unhappy with the job that you do? Can you sign up for free classes to learn something else? Can you watch YouTube videos? Can you be inspired through someone else's message? What can you do to change the narrative in your life? Because I promise, once you take responsibility and realize that you can change your own narrative and create the reality that you want to see, you will be more happy and more open to manifesting the life that you actually want to see. It's about doing, right? It's a mind game, but then it becomes about, okay, I'm going to take responsibility, and I'm going to actively choose to take responsibility for everything in my life, not just some things. Anytime I have a thought like, I can't believe my mom did this, right? That we need these practical exercises to compartment. Yes, that's what I hope to do, is giving you these exercises that are actually going to help you shift, right? Because I understand that these things can be abstract until you get the exercises. So one of the things I do is my mother is a trigger for me, right? I'm going to be honest. My mother can be a trigger for me, but not recently. And it's because I took on this this practice of taking responsibility for everything for myself. So what happens? My mom does something and she triggers me, right? And so then what used to happen is that my mom would do something and then I would do something in response to her, because I allowed her reaction to control my actions. Not anymore. Now when my mother does something, I say, okay, how can I respond to this? I recognize that this is a trigger, and that's from, like I said, writing down when I'm triggered. I recognize it's a trigger. How can I be happy now? Right? My mom has done something. I'm upset by it, but how can I be happy right now? Sometimes it's taking myself out to eat. What I did in New York was I realized, you know what? I can make a day that I'm happy about. I took me and Jalen out to eat. We took pictures. I found a place where it was a beautiful patio. I ordered drinks. I ordered food. And I had a great time. And it was a 2-for-1. Okay, so ultimately I made myself very happy for the day. And I shifted my mood. What can you do to shift your mood? Can you color? You know what? Coloring is very therapeutic for some people. I play dress up, listen to music, and be mindful of the music that you listen to. Don't listen to music that's going to make you more angry or more upset. Listen to music that's going to make you happy. Can you dance in the mirror? You know, can you at work sometimes, can you take a walk? You know, that's something. I was at a wellness retreat today, and Bree was talking about switching positions and taking a walk can be something that can shift your whole mood. Even biblically, they're like, sometimes you have to do with your body. It's not enough to just say with your mouth. Sometimes you have to do with your body. What can you do that you can take responsibility for? You don't feel good? Okay, what can you eat that's going to make you feel happy and not groggy? You know, I love eating ice cream. But can you eat a popsicle? You know, strawberry popsicles are my jam. You know, like they make me feel happy. So these are the things that you have to incorporate into your life that's going to be like, I shift my mood. I don't have to receive the negative energy that's coming. You take responsibility for the life that you want to see. Now, I said that, and that's the first part. I wanted to also talk about being forgiving, right? Because in this, some of you, as I'm talking, some of you are beating yourself up because you don't take responsibility, right? Or you realize, damn, like I've been blaming other people, and now you feel heavy-hearted, or you feel shameful or embarrassed. You got to forgive yourself, girl. You got to. You have to forgive yourself for times when you did not recognize your own power. You have to actively forgive yourself for that, because sometimes we recognize it late, and that's okay. It's never too late to recognize the power that you have and take responsibility. But if you beat yourself up about it, you are just out. If you beat yourself up about not taking responsibility, you are just as bad for not taking responsibility. You cannot dwell in the fact that you have not taken responsibility for the last 28 years of your life, 30 years of your life, 32 years of your life, 40 years of your life. You cannot dwell on that. All you can do is forgive yourself and say, I'm going to do better. Okay? Like, for instance, I wrote on September 10th, I said, I forgive me for not recognizing my own power and influence. I forgive me for not trusting my gift. And more importantly, for not trusting God. I forgive me for seeking validation and approval from anybody other than God. I forgive me for not always understanding my power and living up to my potential, right? Forgiveness is key. You have to forgive yourself. You have to say, okay, I didn't do this. I didn't take responsibility. And as a result, these things went wrong in my life, right? Okay, now I've taken responsibility, and now I forgive myself, and now I'm moving on, and now I'm going to be better. Because taking responsibility is only one part. The second part is forgiveness. You have to forgive yourself, and then you got to forgive all the people around you who may have contributed, right? Because who cares? Somebody didn't do what you wanted them to do, right? Like, I have to forgive all of my exes, and that was something I had to do. I had to forgive all of my exes, which was funny for me, because then it was like, oh, damn, I realized I was holding on to stuff that I didn't need to hold on to. Ultimately, the relationship didn't work out. It is what it is. Power to them. You have to forgive yourself. It says, I forgive myself from the moment of self-doubt. I forgive myself. I release that feeling. Whatever you want from me, God, I am an open vessel. I am obedient and willing to listen to you and move when you say move. God, order my steps. This prayer, this forgiveness prayer, I'm going to include in the worksheets in the worksheets for this week, for those of you who are part of the working class, because I think it's very important for you to have a forgiveness prayer. Because I think that while you are learning to take responsibility, taking responsibility is also understanding that you're going to mess up. And that's okay. You're going to make mistakes. That's okay. Forgive yourself and move on. Right? Taking responsibility and forgiving yourself goes hand in hand. And it's something that has to happen for you to get in alignment and to really feel at peace, right? Because you cannot feel at peace if you're beating yourself up about things that you haven't forgiven yourself about, right? Taking responsibility and forgiveness are dual things. Because whether you're blaming someone else or you're refusing to forgive yourself, you're still acting in a place of flesh and ego when you need to act in a place of spirit. Yes, I think taking responsibility and forgiving are definitely actions that people struggle with. And that's why I'm talking about them both together. Because it's going to be work to both take responsibility and then forgive yourself. Forgive yourself now for the responsibility that you have not taken, for the reality that you have not yet created. Do not beat yourself up about it. It is okay. Because you are now taking responsibility today. Today you are taking responsibility. At this moment you're taking responsibility. And on moments that you don't, recalibrate your mind. Say, oh shoot, when you realize I'm blaming somebody else, when I realize that I'm mad at my mom for influencing my sister to go out for influence my sister to go out, I had to recalibrate yourself, and then forgive yourself for having a moment of self-doubt, because what I really was mad about was that I was self-doubting that because I didn't go out that one day, I was somehow losing out on something. Because I didn't go to Fashion Week that one day, I was losing out on something. Then I had to realize, no, everything happens in divine order, and everything's going to happen as it's supposed to happen. So I can forgive myself, because it's not that big of a deal. Because what's supposed to happen will happen. What's going to be is going to be. I don't have to force it. See, today I told you I supposed to post. I don't have to force it. I used to do crazy stuff intentionally because it was my way of controlling things. It's crazy. And now I don't have to do that. I realized that I don't have to force it. I don't even have to, let's just say the quote, the things that you don't have to force it. And then it had a quote that, that even means manipulating things to your favor. I used to be one of those people who used to manipulate to the point of craziness, right? Like, for instance, and I'm embarrassed to say this, but I'm not embarrassed to say it, because if I was embarrassed to say it, I wouldn't say it. I'm not embarrassed. I'm taking responsibility. In college, shows you how my mind used to work. I used to date this guy. I used to talk to this guy. We used to be friends, and then we started dating, and I really liked him at one point in my life. And he was older than me, and we used to talk every Sunday evening, and we would talk for hours. We would get on the phone at like 7, and we would talk till like midnight, and every Sunday evening. So we only talked on Sunday evenings. This was a routine we had for like almost a year, and then we started dating, but it initially was coming from this. We talked every Sunday. And then we dated, and we had like this whirlwind kind of romance over the summer and into the school year. But then he came to me one day, and he was like, I don't want to date you anymore, right? Like, and I was so sad and heartbroken, because I really liked this guy, and I thought this was a great guy, and I didn't understand why he didn't want to date anymore out of nowhere, right? He was just like, it's a lot of pressure, and I don't want to do this. And so I was just like, okay. And I had to accept it. And I remember my aunt was really pivotal in this time in saying, don't question yourself. Like, one thing you cannot do when someone stops dating you is question yourself. You just have to accept it. And I wish I had the mind that I have now then, but I don't, So once again, forgive myself for what I did not know back then, or what I was incapable of doing back then. Anyways, the guy and I continued to talk because, like I said, we had this habit of talking every Sunday. So we continued talking on Sundays. And one Sunday he revealed to me that he was dating a woman that he really liked, and that he wanted to tell me because he didn't want me to find out any other way. I don't know how I would have found out any other way. But anyways, he just thought that he should let me know because, he valued our friendship. And that's why we still talked on Sundays, but that he was romantically involved with someone else. I acted cool. I acted very cool on the phone, but I was actually distraught, right? And so I did not have the maturity, the knowledge, the capability, whatever, to just accept that. So I proceeded to make up this story. Okay, this is not good. I am not proud of this, but this was crazy. I told him that his girlfriend, this is the next day, I made this masterful plan, and y'all, this is gonna show that my mind is not right. But thank God I've been delivered from this. I made this masterful plan of how I was gonna get him to stop talking to me, because I knew that if he called me, I was going to answer and I was going to talk to him. So the only thing I could do was like sabotage the relationship in my mind. And so I did. I called him and told him that his girlfriend, I said, you called me. Why did you call me last night? And he was like, I didn't call you. And I was like, yeah, you did. And you didn't say anything. You just called and hung up. And he was like, no, I didn't. And so I was like, you did. And so I said, and you sent me a text or whatever. I made up this something. He had not called me the night before. But I knew he was like, so he said, well, hold on. And went on, proceeded to get mad at this woman that he was dating. Saying, you know, she was at my house last night. She must have called you. I can't believe she would do that. I told her that there was nothing going on between me and you, and that you were just a friend of mine, yada, 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 etc., etc. So she was furious, right? Because she didn't call me. I had made that whole thing up. So she was furious, and they got into this huge fight from a story that I had made up, right? And so when he called me back, and he was like, you know, I'm so sorry. I addressed it. You know, that won't happen again. She's denying that it ever happened. But I know that if you got a call in the middle of the night, then it could have only been her, and she must have did it when I was sleeping, and, you know, yada, 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 yada. So he's like apologizing to me, saying, you know, and so then I had to stop. I stopped him, and I said, oh, nobody called me nobody called me. By this point, 2 days had passed. I was like, didn't nobody call me 2 nights ago? I just made that up. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, nobody called me. So, yeah, you don't have anything to apologize about to me because nobody called me. He was like, I can't believe you would do that. What's wrong with you? Yeah, like, he got very angry with me. Obviously, because he hadn't talked to his girlfriend in 2 days, because I said somebody called me in the middle of the night and hung up. And they didn't. I'm laughing, but this was how I used to manipulate situations, right? Because I couldn't take responsibility for my own actions. And so I had to manipulate behaviors and force things because I was not wise enough, mature enough, aligned enough to take responsibilities. So I knew that he would be so angry with me that he would just cut me off and never talk to me again. And that's what happened. And at the time, I was proud of that. But then looking back on it, it was so manipulative. And I forced a situation that didn't have to be. And I probably reaped bad karma from that because I just lied. And I say that to say that I tell that story to say that if you truly take responsibility for your actions, what I could have just said was, you know what, we shouldn't be talking. You have a girlfriend. It's not me. And I am not mature enough to handle this kind of relationship. Right? I should have just said that. But instead, I manipulated the situation. And I caused a lot of friction in their lives. And ultimately, I wasn't happy with myself for what I did. I'm sharing this because I want us to be better. And I realized that, now that's an extreme situation, right? But some of y'all know y'all been manipulating situations. We have to stop doing that because in alignment, when we are truly in alignment, we don't have to manipulate situations to work in our favor. We can just live our lives, right? We can just be truthful with ourselves, take responsibility, and then forgive ourselves for the moments when we're not able to do so. Right? Does that make sense? Am I making sense? Did that make sense to you guys? Do you guys have any questions? If you are part of the working class, I'm going to give this forgiveness prayer in the class. I'm also going to give some journal prompts that's going to help you with actually accepting responsibility and dealing with forgiveness. But I'm also going to give you some things to recognize how to help you get in alignment. But if you have questions, I want to answer them. So, you know, every day I say affirmations. Every day I visualize my future. Every day I have a devotion, I journal, because every day I need that. And so I'm teaching you, I'm hoping that you all also, particularly those in the working class, are getting into the same habits. because I'm giving you this information so that we can elevate higher and do better and be different. You know, we want to change our realities. Ultimately, I know that the reason you all want to get in alignment is because you want to change your reality. And I get that. And so now that I've learned to do that for myself, I it to you guys. I love to hear that you guys are feeling more in peace and that you're feeling inspired by these classes. And